The crystalline throne room of the Valthrine Empire stretched impossibly high, its walls composed of living glass that pulsed with bioluminescent veins. Daniel Chen stood at the entrance, his environmental suit humming softly as it regulated his body temperature against the chamber's frigid atmosphere. Behind him, the massive doors sealed shut with a sound like grinding glaciers. He had come alone as requested, as demanded really. Empress Orla sat motionless on her throne, a structure that seemed to grow organically from the floor itself. She was magnificent in the way that apex predators were magnificent, beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. Her exoskeleton shimmered with iridescent patterns that shifted across the electromagnetic spectrum, visible to Daniel only through the augmented reality overlay in his helmet. 4 arms rested on the armrests of her throne, each ending in delicate manipulators that could crush steel or perform microsurgery with equal ease. Daniel took 3 measured steps forward, his boots clicking against the polished floor. The sound echoed in the cavernous space. That's when Orla shuddered. It wasn't a small movement. Her entire body convulsed, her exoskeleton plates rattling against each other with a sound like wind chimes made of bone. Her compound eyes, thousands of individual lenses that could perceive reality across 17 different wavelengths, fixed on him with an intensity that made his combat training scream warnings into his hindbrain. "You," she said, her voice emanating from a translator device embedded in her thorax. The technology converted her species' natural pheromone-based communication into audible human speech. Impossible. Daniel stopped walking. His hand didn't move toward his sidearm. That would be suicide and diplomatically catastrophic, but his fingers twitched. "Your Radiance, I am Daniel Chen, Special Envoy from the Terran Coalition. I've come to negotiate the terms of—" "I know who you are supposed to be." Orla rose from her throne, her movements fluid despite her massive size. She stood nearly 3 meters tall, her body designed by millions of years of evolution on a high-gravity world. "But that is not what you are." Daniel's heart rate spiked. His suit's medical monitors flickered warnings across his HUD. "I don't understand your Radiance." Orla descended the steps from her dais, each footfall deliberate. Her antennae, sensory organs capable of detecting quantum fluctuations in local spacetime, swept forward, oriented directly at him. "Your species. You should not exist. You cannot exist." "And yet," Daniel said carefully, "here we are." The Empress circled him slowly, keeping her distance but studying him with an intensity that felt almost archaeological. 57 million years ago, my people achieved interstellar travel. We have surveyed 17,000 worlds. We have cataloged 463 sentient species. She stopped directly in front of him. Not one of them evolved on a death world like yours. Daniel had heard this before. Earth's classification as a Class 12 hazard world was well documented in xenobiological databases. High gravity, aggressive microbial life, extreme weather patterns, abundant predators, and a molten core that generated a magnetic field strong enough to cause navigational problems for most alien starships. "We're adaptable," Daniel offered. Adaptable. Orla's translator made the word sound like a curse. "You endure radiation levels that would sterilize most species. Your immune systems wage continuous warfare against microscopic invaders. Your musculoskeletal structure is over-engineered for your planet's gravity, making you disproportionately strong in most galactic environments." She leaned closer. "And your neural architecture. Your capacity for abstract reasoning, pattern recognition, and creative problem-solving exceeds every other species we have encountered by orders of magnitude." Daniel said nothing. What could he say? "But that is not what disturbs me." Orla's voice dropped to something almost reverent. "What disturbs me is that I have seen your species before." The temperature in Daniel's suit suddenly felt wrong, despite the climate controls. "That's impossible. Humanity only achieved faster-than-light travel 43 years ago. This is our first contact with the Valthrine Empire. Not your species. Orla returned to her throne but did not sit. Instead, she touched a panel integrated into the armrest. The walls of the throne room flickered, and suddenly Daniel was surrounded by holographic projections. Images, thousands of them. Archaeological sites from across the galaxy. Ruins on airless moons. Collapsed structures on long-dead worlds. And in every image, carved into stone or metal or materials that human science couldn't identify, were figures. Bipedal, 2 arms, 2 legs, a head with forward-facing eyes. Human. These sites, Orla said, range in age from 200 million years to over 1 billion. They span half the galaxy, different construction techniques, different materials, different levels of technological sophistication. She gestured at the images with 2 of her 4 arms. But the builders, always the same physiological template, always your template. Daniel's mouth had gone dry. You're saying, what? That humans built these, that were some kind of ancient precursor species. I am saying that something very much like you has existed and vanished and existed again across timescales that make evolution seem like a rapid process. Orla's antennae quivered. My people have a legend, the first ones, the species that walked between the stars when our ancestors were still single-celled organisms. They built wonders, they reshaped worlds, and then they were gone, leaving only ruins and questions. She fixed him with her multifaceted gaze. When I saw the first images of humans, transmitted from your initial contact probes, I thought it was a hoax, a cruel joke. Because you look exactly like the figures in those ancient ruins. The proportions are identical. The biomechanical structure is identical. Daniel felt like the floor was tilting beneath him. But we have a complete evolutionary history. Fossil records going back millions of years. We evolved from apes, from earlier mammals, from... I know. Orla's translator somehow conveyed sadness. That is what makes it truly terrifying. You evolved naturally. You are not descendants of the first ones. You are not their children or their creation. She paused. You are what the universe keeps producing, as if reality itself has a template and given enough time and the right conditions, it keeps printing copies. The implications crashed over Daniel like a wave. If humanity's form was somehow universal, somehow inevitable. How many, he asked quietly, how many times has this happened? We have found evidence of at least 17 distinct civilizations matching your physical template, none contemporary with each other, each rising and falling across epochs so vast that one leaves no trace before the next emerges. Orla's voice carried something that might have been fear, and each one eventually disappeared. No final wars, no catastrophic collapse, they simply stopped existing, as if they graduated to something beyond physical reality. Daniel thought about humanity's recent discoveries, quantum consciousness theories, the strange properties of human neural tissue that seemed to interact with quantum fields in ways that violated conventional physics, the inexplicable coincidences that had allowed Earth to develop intelligent life despite odds that should have been astronomically against it. Why are you telling me this? He asked. Because I am afraid, Orla said simply. In 57 million years of spaceflight, my species has never encountered an active first-one civilization. We have always arrived too late, finding only ruins and silence. She stood, descending the steps once more. Until now, until you. She stopped directly before him, close enough that he could see his reflection distorted across her compound eyes. I shuddered when you entered, Daniel Chen, because I recognized you, not personally, not individually, but as something that should only exist in archaeological records and cultural nightmares. Her antennae swept toward him again, trembling. You are the species that reality cannot help but create, the pattern that repeats, the form that rises, achieves the impossible, and then transcends into something we cannot follow or understand. Daniel met her gaze as best he could. And you think we'll do the same? disappear like the others. I think you are already beginning to, Orla said. Your mathematics describe dimensions we cannot perceive. Your quantum computers create calculations that should not be possible with physical matter. Your artists dream of concepts that have no words in any language, including your own. She gestured to the holographic ruins still floating around them. Every one of these civilizations showed the same progression, and then ascension, evolution beyond matter, graduation from reality itself. Daniel looked at the images, temples under alien suns, monuments on worlds that had forgotten their names, all built by hands shaped like his own, across a span of time that made human history seem like a single heartbeat. How long, he asked, how long do we have? Orla's antennae drooped. The shortest interval we have recorded was 3,000 years from first contact with other species to disappearance. The longest was 500,000 years. She paused. But the technological curve always follows the same trajectory, and yours is the steepest we have ever measured. Daniel turned away from the ruins, looking back at the Empress. Is that why you agreed to this negotiation? Not to establish trade or alliance, but to, what? Study us. Preserve our memory before we vanish. No, Orla said. I agreed because I wanted to see one of you in person before you were gone, to look at the face of the universe's favorite pattern, to tell you that you are not alone even if you are unique. She lowered herself in what might have been a bow, and to beg you, if your species truly is about to transcend reality itself, to remember those of us you leave behind. We are ancient, we are powerful, but we are also mortal and limited and bound to matter. She raised herself back up. When humanity goes wherever the first ones go, remember that there were others. Remember the Valthrine. Remember that we saw you and marveled and were afraid. Daniel stood in silence, processing. Finally, he spoke. The negotiations, the trade agreements, the territorial boundaries, the technology exchanges. Will proceed as if I had never told you this, Orla said. Your leaders need not know, perhaps should not know, but you asked why I shuddered. She returned to her throne. Now you understand. I saw the face of something that should be extinct or mythological, and it wore your form. Daniel nodded slowly. I'll file my report. We'll negotiate in good faith. I know you will, Orla said. That is what makes your species most remarkable. You could dominate, you could conquer, but instead you seek to understand, to cooperate. Her antennae swept in what might have been a gesture of respect. Perhaps that is why reality keeps making more of you. The universe is trying to create something better than survival. Daniel turned toward the exit. The massive doors began to grind open. He paused at the threshold, looking back at the Empress of the Valthrine. If we do transcend, he said, if we do go wherever the others went, I'll make sure we remember, I promise. Orla's exoskeleton plates shifted in what might have been gratitude or sorrow. Thank you, Daniel Chen. Now go, negotiate our future, however long that future might be. Daniel walked through the doors into the corridor beyond, where his escort waited. Behind him, the throne room sealed shut once more, and on her throne of living glass, Empress Orla sat alone, surrounded by holographic ghosts of civilizations that had worn humanity's face across the depth of geological time. She did not stop shuddering for hours.